I'm Ali Ibrahim. I'm system agronomist and regional representative of Africa Rice based in Senegal. Welcome everyone and thank you for joining this webinar on gender disaggregated constraints to the adoption and yield gain on RiceAdvice Lite. So this activities is under the sustainable farming area of work 2, where we look at the constraints related to digital advisory adoption in Africa. So for this presentation, I'm going to give a brief background and objective of this study. Then I will highlight the methodology that we use to collect the data, then also the results and discussion. Then I will conclude with the main outcome of this study. So as for background, as you know, Nigeria is the largest rice producer and consumer in sub-Saharan Africa. But although the importance of rice, there is still an issue regarding the productivity of rice in Nigeria, with yield gap ranging from 28 to almost 50%, depending on the agroecologic area. So this yield gap is generally due to suboptimal fertilizer management and also lack of knowledge for farmers to access new advisories, new advisory or guidance from extension agents. So as you know, digital agronomy tools like RiceAdvice and RiceAdvice Lite, it's important to notify here is RiceAdvice is an Android-based decision support developed by Africa Rice that provide field-specific recommendations for rice management in terms of fertilizer management, particularly type of fertilizer to be used, the amount of fertilizer to use, when this fertilizer to be used based on target yield. And also it provides farmers with good agricultural practice. So this tool is developed particularly for irrigated and favorable rainfall lowland rice systems. And we started this work since 2016, where we start disseminating RiceAdvice in Nigeria and other Africa rice countries. But we realized that this tool has required a lot of information before generating the recommendation. That's why RiceAdvice Lite has been developed. It's like a streamlined light version of RiceAdvice that provide farmers with the same recommendation, but based on the minimal farmer input. So it doesn't require a lot of information and the time to generate the recommendation. So the dissemination of this RiceAdvice in many African countries, including Nigeria, has shown improved in nutrient use efficiency and also boosting yield. But we realize that the access and adoption of this tool generally are influenced by gender. So there is a need to understand equity dimensions related to the adoption of these tools that we develop. So the objective of the study that we conducted is to examine gender differentiated access, adoption or use, and also constraint and the yield gain of RiceAdvice Lite among smallholder rice farmers in Nigeria. So some of the research questions that we try to answer is what drive RiceAdvice use across genders? What are the barriers proportionally affecting the adoption of the use of RiceAdvice, and also affects by women, particularly female women, female farmers, and is the yield gain gender neutral? So these are some of the questions that we try to answer in this study. Okay, so it should move. Okay, so the methodology that we use, the study was conducted in Nigeria, as I highlighted, particularly in 4 state where we did a lot of dissemination of RiceAdvice since 2016. And we use particularly farmers on different, particularly in irrigated rice farmers, and we use a stratified sampling method with targeting 628 farmers, including both women and men farmers. And we conducted household survey. So it's important here to highlight that the number of women responded was not due to the sampling bias. It's just because the actual population of female, because we focus on female-headed household. So the actual farmers, female households are on rice are really small in this area. Therefore, the relatively small number of women in the sample reflects actually the limitation in terms of participation of women in rice production in this area. So for the data analysis, of course, the data that we collected, we use descriptive statistical analysis and the key square test and t-test, and also some regression analysis to analyze the data. So in terms of the results, we first of all look at the awareness of rice, awareness and adoption of RiceAdvice among rice farmers. And as you can see, I highlighted this is earlier. It's important to note that the dissemination of RiceAdvice has been ongoing since in this location since 2016, and during which several business model has been developed for this area for the dissemination. So as you can see from the result, they are both in terms of awareness and also use of RiceAdvice. It shows significant gender disparities where we have men being more engaged at both stages. So these results suggest effectively that men have greater exposure to digital agronomy information compared to farmers, as you can see from this result. Then we look at what determine exactly this adoption or use of RiceAdvice among the different group of farmers. Then we realize that from this result, as you can see, education, if you look at education, land tenure, and also gender show significant association with RiceAdvice use. And also generally, male farmers are like, as you can see from these results, male farmers are like almost 2 times more likely to use RiceAdvice than female farmers. As you can see also from this result, when we disaggregated in terms of socioeconomic and education level, we realized that high education farmers are strongly increased uptake of RiceAdvice Lite compared to other farmers. Then when you look at also the access of information for RiceAdvice, how farmers access information for them to use RiceAdvice Lite, we have significantly greater access to formal extension agent, as you can see here, where mostly farmers, more significantly greater access for formal extension service for male farmers compared to women, representing the large and the most critical gender gap that we have in terms of access of information. But of course, you can see women also compensate with the high reliance on, for instance, NGO, who generally are train them or make them the information available to them. But all the other information channel like extension agent and also farmer group or peer papers in terms of information are constantly in favor of female, as you can see from the different results that we have. Then we look at exactly after this information, what are the barriers, what are the constraints that prevent female using RiceAdvice Lite? And as you can see from this result, we have phone access is the most significant barrier for women, female in terms of accessing, in terms of using RiceAdvice. But we have also decision power making is also there is a disparity between female and women farmers, where mostly farmer decision, let's say, decision-making power is also disproportionately distracted for women. But other barriers, we have also other barriers that we have, like fertilizer costs, trust in recommendations, and also time constraints that shows that are also important in barrier for adoption of RiceAdvice. But all these elements or constraints are not significantly different among different group of farmers, either female or male. The most important are just phone access and also decision making, particularly for farmers, which are very important. Then we look at what really this group of farmers need to sustain the use of RiceAdvice Lite. As you can see, women express a significantly strong need for women targeted extension services, with at least more than across around 82% needs for this women targeted extension agent, but also demand for local language interface is also higher for women, which shows that if the tools provide information in local language, it's likely that farmers can adapt this when it's compared to good training. So what is important to highlight is here, women farmers require more gender responsive extension service and also local language to adopt more these digital tools. So in terms of influence of inter-household decision-making on the RiceAdvice Lite use, we see that if there is a joint household decision-making, there is a significant possibility of adopting RiceAdvice, particularly for women. And also, this should be joined with the training, which show a strong predictor for the use of RiceAdvice. So here we can just highlight that adoption of RiceAdvice Lite is driven mostly by the training and the joint decision making, as you can see, with significant differences between these two groups. Then when we look at also in terms of impact, because as I told you that these tools have been disseminated for a long time in Nigeria, and there are a good body of literature that shows that RiceAdvice Lite, RiceAdvice increase yield. Then here, as you can see from this result, RiceAdvice the use of RiceAdvice lead to a large and highly significant increase in yield, around 1.9 tons compared to those who are not using RiceAdvice. But in terms of gender, we don't see any significant difference in using in terms of yield gain when farmers, female or male, use RiceAdvice Lite. So it's important here to highlight that RiceAdvice Lite deliver a large and gender-neutral yield benefit. Either female farmers or male farmers use RiceAdvice, the benefit can be the same. So in conclusion, what we can say, as I just highlighted, that the digital agronomy advisory like RiceAdvice increase yield equally for both women and men farmers. But as you can see also, women face higher barrier into access of particularly in terms of using these digital tools for the reason that we highlighted. So, and also scaling of RiceAdvice Lite equally required gender responsive design, which as we can say will allow to expand the impact of RiceAdvice Lite, particularly when it's taking into consideration local language interfaces and also women targeted training, which allow farmers to have access and adopt more these tools. So this is what I can share from you from our study. Thanks for listening.